Spend enough time on the gamer side of the internet and you'll quickly learn 3 things. 1. EA is absolute evil. 2. Everybody in Skyrim plays a stealth archer. And 3. Prey is the most underrated game since Ty the Tasmanian Tiger.
We're under attack from Ninja Billy.
I, however, oppose the masses. I'm a rebel. So I bought this so-called sci-fi immersive sim space single player. View your queue. Prey is already in your Steam library. Piece of shit. And played it for 3 days straight. And let me tell ya, it's actually really good. In a world where developers are scared to challenge their audience and fans as they know that most of us nowadays have the attention span of a goldfish chasing a brick fucking wall, they know that constantly bombarding you with tips, visual cues and prompts is the only way to ensure people won't give up on their $70 cash grabs. Prey, however, completely threw this concept out of the window and fully gives you the creative freedom to essentially do whatever the fuck you want. If stairs are broken, create your own. If your skills are too low to access something, try workarounds. If you don't know where you are, download a map. If you are outnumbered, repair a lift to escape. If all else fails, run. The absolute beauty of it all is that they allow you to make mistakes, but more importantly, allow for creative solutions without holding your hand 24/7. At one point I was stuck, not sure on how to enter a room, only to realize that I picked up a skill a few hours earlier that allowed me to transform into items. So I broke a window, transformed into a cup, and managed to enter the room like so, and I figured it all out on my... What are you doing? No, stop, don't look at that. No, don't. I was immersed from the get-go, only to be severely disappointed by the fact that enemies have these Far Cry-like circles hovering around them, indicating whenever you are about to be spotted by them, only to then be absolutely positively surprised to find out that you can adjust all of the HUD settings to your liking. So I turned it off, essentially turning Prey into Amnesia with weapons. This game had me shitting my pants faster than a camel sick and a double espresso on an empty stomach. For the Americans watching this who can't relate, that's like having Taco Bell on a hangover Saturday morning. I made the mistake of checking out the other immersive sims Steam had to offer after finishing this game, and now I know why people are holding Prey on such a pedestal, because all of the other sims suck dick. I was eventually pretty afraid that the game would reach that point which I've experienced in so many RPGs until now, where the start is incredibly immersive as you're actually struggling to survive, but when you reach the halfway point it turns into, well, this. But that's thankfully not the case, as 90% of the game will be spent like this. Unless you are a little bitch. You will play on one of the hardest difficulty settings, together with status effects that actually make sure you're feeling the negative results. This game is not like Fallout, where your character can have a spinal cord injury together with a collective amount of 9 broken bones and a brain tumor, only to have all of them be fixed by injecting some tren into his left bicep. To ensure that you won't succumb from one of the many status effects, you'll need to craft items in the Fabricator. The Fabricator allows for you to create items that you will desperately need on your adventure, like health packs, ammo, and neuromods. If you do not have the necessary items, you can convert items in your inventory in the Material Recycler. That, well yeah, it does what the name applies, it recycles. It took me roughly 20 hours to finish the game, and even in the last hour I was desperately scrounging for supplies as I was hobbling to the final objective with a broken leg and a fucking concussion. The scarcity of supplies is actually really amazing, as it often puts you in positions where you have to give up necessary items to craft others that you desperately need at the moment. If it isn't broken bones and concussions, it'll be radiation poisoning and bleeding wounds, which even show up as a trail behind you. Yeah, it's one of those games. The attention to detail is mwah. You're gonna need all of these items because in Prey you are never safe. Places you've walked past 100 times already have new areas hidden behind them with even more enemies. Mimics are everywhere, especially where you least expect them. You walk by places 5, 10, 20 times only to then realize, has this always been there? And then BAM! Even in areas you thought you were safe, suddenly enemies can appear out of thin air. But yeah, it's mostly mimics. That doesn't mean that the other enemies suck though. As a matter of fact, they're actually flawless. The game only has roughly 2 handfuls of enemies, but all of them are completely unique. You'll often run into enemies only to realize that whatever you are doing is absolutely failing, only to then switch to a different weapon and finally book some success. And well, not to repeat myself, but if you fail, yeah, just run. Prey doesn't sell itself as a typical RPG, but the role-playing here is honestly more impressive than many RPGs we are getting nowadays. The skills allow for pretty diverse builds, and because unlocking skills is locked behind so-called neuromods, you'll never run into the issue where you feel like you are forced to fight enemies to grind XP, which is an issue that often happens whenever you are trying to play a stealthy character in other games. Next to the main objectives, there's plenty of other shit to do. I would call it side quests, but honestly, a lot of the side content plays into the main story quite well, and it can even result in different endings, sort of. Some of it is timed, so you better know the map well. I normally hate not being able to fast travel, but it was incredibly rewarding to, at first, have no clue how to get to places and realizing how confusing all of it was, only to, when I advanced throughout the game, figure out shortcuts and getting to know the ins and outs of every nook and cranny. You run into various airlocks that you can open up as well, so if you don't feel like staring at loading screens every 2 minutes, you can also just circle around the space station like a fly on a piece of shit. So now I can hear you wondering, well, what about the bad things? Waar is negatief? The video can't just end out of nowhere. The game has to do something badly, right? Because otherwise it would have gotten perfect reviews